Hello everyone and welcome to Aquatics by Nature. I thought today I would just do a little bit of a rundown, a little bit more background information on this 28-year-old natural aquarium. As I say, this aquarium is basically about 28 years old, and in all that time it's only had about half a dozen, maybe a handful of water changes, simply because it maintains a much better balance without. The substrate itself has never been touched, it's never been cleaned in any way, it's never been siphoned. It's actually about 4 inches deep, and right the way down to the bottom it's never been touched. It's been allowed to just let the roots colonise, and the roots can manipulate the chemistry of the substrate to their liking without any unnatural disturbance. Some of the plants, the crinum on the left hand side here, the big onion plant, is actually 28 years old. It was planted on day one when the tank was set up, as were the cryptocorynes that now make a carpet across the bottom of the tank. These plants basically seem to last forever, which is always good. The tank doesn't have any fertilisers, nothing is added, no fertilisers added, no CO2 is added, and probably more importantly than anything, over the entire life of the tank I've never added any chemicals. No treatments, no bottles, no potions, nothing at all. Everything is entirely natural and just allowed to find its own equilibrium. The only things that are actually added to this tank are just fish food and then just water to top up a little bit occasionally. The tank has got a very good fitting lid, so evaporation is minimal, so top up is very, very little. As I say, everything is just allowed to run gently at nature's pace. No rush, just ticking along nicely. As far as the maintenance itself is concerned, I feed the fish twice daily. In the morning I just feed them tetramin flake, and then in the evening I feed them either frozen cyclops or frozen black mosquito larvae, as they are the natural food of most of the small fish that we keep in our aquariums. And as you can see, the fish thrive on it, so we don't have any issues doing that. Apart from that, I tend to clean the glass approximately once a week, although actually in the entire age of the tank I've never actually cleaned the back or the sides. I simply leave those to become weathered in and just do their own thing. I don't like excessive cleaning, as you may have guessed by now. The other maintenance really is the water lettuce, the floating plant at the top here. Roughly once a week I thin that out, otherwise it makes the tank too dark and can cut down the gas exchange at the surface, so that's never a particularly good idea. And then maybe every 2 to 4 weeks I will trim any excess growth off the other plants if it's getting a little bit overgrown. The ambulia here, for example, the feathery plant grows quite quickly, so I have to thin that out every now and again just to keep things in order. The filter itself is just in the box in the corner. It's basically a big internal power filter. That's cleaned approximately every 6 to 12 months, but to be honest, as long as the flow is ticking along, I never touch it. Filters are much more effective just left doing their own thing. So the flow is not particularly strong, just enough to keep the water moving at all times, so it's not too much. A lot of the maintenance is actually done by what I call the clean-up crew, which consists of, must be at least half a dozen different types of snails, a dozen or more amano shrimps, some of which are actually rather huge. I don't know if you can see them on the back there, there's a couple of big shrimps there, but some of the amano shrimps in this tank are actually in excess of 20 years old. In a tank that's this well balanced, they seem to be almost immortal. They don't seem to age, they just tick along and go on forever. Apart from that, there's lots and lots of wild type Neocaridina, which are the little tiny shrimps that will actually breed and self-perpetuate in the tank. I particularly like the wild type because although they're not sort of vibrantly coloured, they don't get predated on like the brightly coloured ones do. So they just tick along, find their own level and just breed to the amount of food that's available. Well, I think that's probably it for a little update today. Thank you.